Everything is fueled from me wanting to be a better person on earth.
It's time to do your part.
Well, as you know, you've been following us, and Do Your Part podcast is on the road. I am in Pinckney, Michigan. I don't know why that's so hard for me. It's all new to me. It might be new for you, but I've stumbled across these two lovely sisters. We are talking to Breyanna and Patty, and they've got an interesting story, a very interesting story. It's one word to describe it, and I knew I wanted to talk to you immediately when I heard a bit about you. So, A, thank you for letting me into your home and chatting with me.
Of course.
I really appreciate it. Now, again, these mics are going to be funny, so make sure where you can hear yourself, right? All right, so when I talked to your uncle, and, you know, we mentioned coming to chat with you, you guys were like, yeah, totally, 100%, let's do it. My question to both of you is, why were you so quick to want to do this?
For me, I feel like race isn't discussed that much in Pinckney, nor is racism, because most people are racist. So it's something that needs to be known, especially for people like locally, to know how people like black people feel living in Pinckney.
Okay. How about you?
Yeah, I'd say it's basically the same thing that Patty said. It's not discussed much in school, specifically where it's like more intense being black in Pinckney schools, and just the town in general.
Have you guys been outside of Pinckney? I know you've also lived in Ann Arbor, is that right? Tell me a bit about like what else you've seen in your, and also tell us your ages.
I'm 16.
And I'm 21.
Gotcha. Okay, you gotta love it, right? All right, so tell me a bit about, you know, your experience as far as regionally, right? Have you ever been outside of Michigan?
I've traveled, but I've never lived outside of Michigan. I grew up in Ann Arbor most of my life, and then in 8th grade, that's when we moved here to Pinckney. So I've stayed pretty much in the same area my whole life. Gotcha.
So as we always do with guests, we get a little backstory. So take some time and tell us a little bit about you and your backstory.
Okay, so my mom had me very, very young. She was 19 at the time when she gave birth to me, so she was still living at her mom's house in Ann Arbor. And so I grew up there for a lot of my life, I think maybe until like around age 3 or 4. And then we moved out and we got an apartment. And then by the time I was like 5, Boofy came along. She was my little sister. And
Boofy, also known as Breyanna.
Yes.
I want to hear about that, but go ahead.
Yes. But
so was it just you and your mom then?
Yeah, my dad was in the picture. But he wasn't living with us at the time. He stayed with his mom, and I stayed with my mom. But I saw him every so often. Most of the time, he was still a big part of my life, but it was mostly me and Mom.
Because now there's literally like a new age Brady Bunch. So it went from you and your mom.
Yep.
Okay, continue to this legacy of people.
So it was me, my mom, and Breyanna, and then come like 8th grade, we were introduced to Dan, who was her boyfriend at the time, and they got along really, really well. They were dating for a while, and then we ended up moving here when I started 8th grade. End of 7th grade was when I met him and met his kids and everything, and we moved here. And then in 2013, did they get married in 2013?
It was 2014, maybe? I think it was...
It was 2013. We sound like bad kids. But, yeah.
There's pictures up there to prove it, by the way.
Yes. But they got married in 2013, and ever since, we've been here basically since like 2011-ish.
Gotcha.
Yep.
All right, so before I get to more of the questions, let's pass it along to Breyanna. I still don't feel comfortable saying Boofy. I feel like that's an earned title.
You can if you want.
All right, thank you, Boofy. So do the same thing that she did. I mean, obviously you're kind of paralleled with her as far as living and such, but give us some of your example, your idea.
So my mom had me when she was 24. No, she was 23 at the time, and I lived in Ann Arbor until the end of 3rd grade, and I started 4th grade here in Pinckney, and there wasn't much. I didn't get to live as much of my life in Ann Arbor as Patty did, of course, but...
You were talking the other night about diversity and how you guys are probably the only people of color in this town, or just one of a few, right?
Yeah, it's very little.
And Ann Arbor is what you would consider definitely diverse.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
All right, so let's get right into it.
So
yeah,
my classes, here in Pinckney, I'm normally the only black kid in my classes, but Ann Arbor schools, you had kids of every race in every single class. It wasn't like just white, just black. It was Asian kids, black kids, white. It was everyone. Everyone was so nice to each other. Nobody cared about race. Like, it was never a topic of discussion because everyone looked different, and it was never a problem either. It wasn't like kids were going to be racist to each other. Like, I never experienced racism until I moved here.
All right, and so you said you moved here in the 8th grade?
Yeah.
So then that would have put you in what, the 5th grade? 4th grade. So hand that back to her. Tell me a bit about the racism that you experienced off the bat when you moving here.
So, at the start, the first thing I ever heard was a girl telling me and Maddie, my stepsister, who's in the same grade as me, that we could not be sisters because I'm black and she's white. So that was the first thing right off the bat. I was like, oh, okay. And it definitely wasn't as bad as it like got when we were older, but there was still comments and things that was like that were and was said because kids are a little dumb. Kids are dumb. They don't know what they're saying, talking about. But that was the first thing that made me realize, like, oh, this is how it's gonna be here. Because I never like really thought about like the race difference at first. I did kind of realize like, oh, I think there was like one other black kid in the classroom with me, but it definitely wasn't the first thing I thought about because that was never something we thought about in my old school. So, yeah.
Got it. Okay. Hand this off to her. I want to hear kind of your version. And I'm relieved to hear that you didn't drop the N-bomb. I'm sure you've heard that word be tossed around. But for me, living in California, I dealt with my own levels of racism. And at a very young age, I did hear that word. And I remember going to my mom and saying, "What's a nigger?" And, seeing a lot of rage moved my way at a very young age. So tell me a bit about when you moved here and your experience in school.
Okay, so 8th grade, I remember the first day of school, I walked into a gym class not really knowing what to expect. I had presumed that there might be a lot of white kids because Brittany, before I even started school in Pinckney, she let me see her yearbook. That's my stepsister who's in the same age grade as me. And I was like flipping through the yearbook, and even being in 8th grade, I also never really thought about race because Ann Arbor is so diverse, you just don't think about it. And I was flipping through a yearbook just kind of like, where are the people that look like me? That kind of thing. But yeah, the first day of 8th grade, I walked in and I just had so many stares, like everybody just like looking at me like I wasn't supposed to be there almost. It was very nerve-wracking. I was very anxious, but I still like kept my composure, sort of just acted normal as if I was here for school, that kind of thing. But yeah, that was the first day of 8th grade for me. And then throughout 8th grade, I didn't have many friends like in the first couple weeks, but then people would come and start talking to me, like trying to get to know me a little bit, which was really nice. One of my first friends, she's still like my best friend to this day.
Wow.
Her name is Maudie. Yeah.
Holla.
Yeah.
Love you.
Yeah, she's the best. But she invited me to come sit with her at lunch, and she was in my first hour of my gym class, so she let me come and hang out with her and that kind of stuff. But yeah, it was pretty rough the first couple weeks, but once I found people that were actually nice to me, it was okay.
Something tells me that you, towards the end of your high school career, you were probably popular, right?
I wouldn't say necessarily popular, but just everybody kind of knew me because I was the black girl in our grade. There was like 2 other kids of color in my grade. One was a boy. I'm not sure if he was fully black or if he was mixed race as well. And then there was a girl, but she was much, much lighter than I am. She was like borderline white passing. So it was like I was pretty much the only black girl in our grade.
Gotcha. Okay. And, as I have these discussions with people, I'm not always trying to look for, like, the bad stuff or the scary stuff.
Yeah.
And I'm a bit relieved to hear this version because I was expecting something different.
Yeah.
As far as your experience in school or just living in these areas and dealing with other people of color, do you see colorism? Do black folks look at you kind of crazy? Or do you find that you guys might have some own identity issues kind of falling in the middle?
I've been told plenty of times that I don't act black and I don't look black, and I've had people say like, well, you almost look Mexican, like you don't look like you're black, and that's pretty much about it. But that hasn't come from black people. That's come from white kids at Pinckney. I never experienced colorism in Ann Arbor though.
Gotcha. What about you?
Around the same, just never like full colorism or anything, just kind of like, oh, you look Mexican,
Yeah.
type of things.
Yeah. So living here in Pinckney and knowing that you guys kind of stand out, right?
Yes.
Are you still able to have? I mean, obviously, you're still able to have a good life and a quality of life here. I mean, are you happy here? Do you worry about when you leave home or?
Yeah, I normally worry, especially like going towards Howell if we like go out and stuff.
All right, tell us the history of Howell because I just learned this.
Howell used to be a KKK town. I think like the leader of the KKK in like the northern parts
Yeah,
lived.
like the northern section.
Yeah,
of
northern
the KKK.
section of the KKK lived in Howell, and basically Howell, Brighton, and Pinckney are all, or used to be, considered sundown towns. Yeah.
I just learned what that was from.
Mm-hmm.
I just learned what that was from the show Lovecraft Country, and it's so embarrassing that we as people of color don't learn these small bits of our own history.
Yeah, I didn't even know for a while.
Child scared the shit out of me. When you see this clip from Lovecraft Country on HBO, they show these three folks that were the sheriff's like, if you can get out of here before sundown, I won't kill you, and he followed them all the way out, but they couldn't speed, so it was intense.
Jeez.
All right, go on.
But I definitely do like
What was it called again? Sundown what?
sundown towns.
Got it. Go ahead.
I'm kind of like used to it at this point, but a lot of times when we like go out to stores, I'll kind of get followed around by some of the white workers.
Mm-hmm.
But at this point, I'm so used to it. I'm so used to being followed. You know,
Almost
they're-
blind to it.
yeah.
Mm-hmm. Wait, hand that. Say
I was
it
just
again.
gonna say you're almost blind to it. Like you don't even realize anymore. Like you don't notice the stairs. You just like focus on what you're doing.
And that's for all of us.
Yep.
Right? Unless we are immersed amongst our own people, we're definitely always kind of having to be extra aware. And I don't think people really that doesn't compute for a lot of people.
Yep.
You know,
Yeah,
they're like, well,
definitely doesn't.
you can't just move about and be relaxed. I mean, we can to a certain degree,
Yeah.
but you know, it's being a little more sensitive about our surroundings. All right, so tell me a bit about this big family and when Dan came in and you've got all the white kids, you've got you guys, and how do you kind of fit into that? How do you keep your voice? How do you find your voice? How do you deal with the outside noise of people looking at you all funny, like what's going on? You know what I mean? Because you got it. I'm sure people look at you guys like, how do you two fit in, or what's
Right.
going on, right?
Alongside the like girl telling me I couldn't have my sister because I'm black, you know, that was definitely something. And I don't know.
Do you think that you've had a pretty good experience living here? I mean, you can't compare it to anything else.
Yeah,
That's
right.
not how life works. But
Kind of not. Definitely, like, I have so many stories from school, so many different situations, stories about comments, bullying, just anything.
feel free to share a couple, because this is what the people need to hear.
Yeah.
You know.
So, one of Maddie, the stepsister in the same grade, just the other day, she told me that once I came to school, because we had the same class, she said that every single one of her friends stopped talking to her. Almost every single one of them just completely ignored her. They all stopped. And apparently, one of my friends who wasn't even in the class, a different classroom and everything, said that we were like the talk of fourth grade. The fact that this black and white girl are sisters. So it was just this huge thing. I didn't even know about this until like last month too. So fourth grade was the start of it all. And then the main things that stick out to me that like still have effect on me to this day was 8th grade. There was this day I never wore my hair natural to school because I always straightened it, or my mom would do it for me. She'd just like kind of brush it out and put in a ponytail. So 8th grade, I finally started like doing my hair myself, and I wore it curly to school because my friends, you know, they were excited to see it for the first time. So I sat down in my class, and this girl behind me is just laughing. She's like scream laughing, and her friends are with her laughing too. And the two girls had bullied me like all of 8th grade. They were the worst people. And she walked outside the classroom like waiting for her friend, and she was like, oh my god, you have to see this, you have to see this. And they walked in, they just started dying laughing, and I was like, okay, maybe it's not me. And then I heard some girl behind me like, oh, it's not even that bad. And I was like, oh. So it was about me and my hair. And that entire day I had so many ignorant comments from teachers and people just like, oh, is your hair naturally like that? Like, yeah. I feel like if I did it myself, like curled it, I was like,
Or if
no.
you got a perm.
Yeah, they were asking me so many weird questions. I was like, okay. So that was like the one that stuck out to me. They bullied me the whole day because of my natural curly hair.
Hold that thought. With red lights on, we're still recording, right? All right. We're a little rogue, as you know. We're on the road, so thank you. Continue.
And relentlessly, the whole 8th grade, they were like that to me. And I remember I posted something on my Instagram account, and I didn't know that one of their friends had followed me. And I posted something about how upset they made me and how terrible I felt. And they confronted me the next day and were like, why would you say this about us? We didn't even say anything to you. And I just kept my mouth shut. I didn't want to deal with it because I thought about how I'm the only black kid in this school. If this like gets brought up with like the principal, I'd probably somehow end up in trouble because it's all these white people against me. And of course, like, that probably wouldn't have ended up well.
That's your reality. This is what I'm talking about. It's not so much outward direct racism. It doesn't have to be reduced to the N-word. It's stuff like that. The fact that all of Maddie's friends stopped speaking to her once you were introduced into the picture. So this affects not just you, it affects your whole family.
Yep. Last year, 11th grade for me at school, this wasn't like directly towards me, but
Let me interrupt you real quick. Okay. Remember, she's 16, so we're talking like this is like yesterday.
Yeah.
Like we're not talking about the 90s or the 70s or the 50s. This is yesterday. Sorry, go on.
So it wasn't directed towards me or anything. It was a situation that happened with the school. So the Pinckney soccer boys, I'm of course not 100% sure that it really happened, but with the way they talked about it, because I of course wasn't there. I don't go to the games and stuff. Apparently, some of the boys, they were facing, I think a predominantly black team. I think they were from like Ipsy maybe. And I was sitting with my friend in math class, and I heard this kid next to me bragging about what he was saying to the team. He's like, I called them monkeys, and just kept listing things. And I was just in shock. I like looked at her and I was like, do you hear this?
Her as like, in the teacher?
No, my friend.
Gotcha.
My friend who was sitting next to me. And I was just shocked. And I asked my friend, I like mentioned it to a different friend, and she said that she had heard the same exact thing from the same kids in one of her classes. So I was just shocked, like, and apparently nobody like really knows what happened, of course, unless the people were there, but I don't think the kids ever got in trouble for that, but yeah, I'm not surprised. So much has happened at that school.
Let me ask you a question, and it's a tough question, right? It's a general question, but do you think that these people that you're referring to really are racist or prejudiced, or do you think that it's trending because of the political situation that we've been in? I've gotten years on you, so I know I've seen a lot change since Trump has been in office. Yeah. Do you see what I'm saying by that? Are these kids that just think it's because it's cool to do? You know, take it.
I was just going to say, there's a lot of kids that were like upperclassmen that were like ignorant, or kids that would say things. And because me being older and graduated, I figured I might be able to answer this better.
Yes, please.
There's a lot of kids that were ignorant but know better now. Like I've seen, for example, this one girl on Twitter, I remember specifically, she made fun of Jay-Z's lips, said like he had N-word lips, and like said something about like something else about the N-word. And my friend Tiana, who was from Ann Arbor, she's black as well, she's mixed race, but she replied to her and said like, hey, you're not allowed to say that. And she was like, I don't care, it's my birthday, I can do what I want. And that was like the end of the story. But now she's like really involved in like politics, and like she's really educated, and she
Tiana
like goes to the girl who said that.
Wow.
Yeah, she's like, and herself, she's Asian. Yeah, so you'd think like another minority might understand how that would feel. Yeah, but most of the time it's not that way. But yeah, there's people like that who have changed and grown from who they were in the past, and then there's people, mostly it's like the stereotypical hillbilly type country boys that are still the exact same way. They don't think any different than they did in the past. And that was back in like 2014, and they're still the exact same. Yep. And even back then there was still Black Lives Matter stuff happening with like who was it? Oh my gosh.
Oh geez, there's too big of a pool to pick from.
Yes, I can't remember what specific protest it was, but it was when all that stuff was going on. Like those people would be like, oh, these people are stupid, like he got what he deserved, like but yeah, they're still the exact same way, even with like George Floyd and everything else happening now.
Yep. Keep that mic. Yeah. I like that you mentioned that this Asian woman, there was a spin of hope, that it went into a positive direction, because A, that's kind of what we want to do here, and B, it's so important that we're all able to at least keep that in mind, because then what do we have to hold on to?
Exactly.
You know? It's like we can't just, so I love that story, actually. That's fantastic. Excuse me. But let's take a step back yet again. Do you think that maybe she referred to Jay-Z's nigga lips using the N-word because she thought it was just cool, and was she trying to just be cool, or do you think she actually was prejudiced?
Being like in high school and like trying to be edgy and like funny, I could see it as being like trying to fit in with people who would also say the word and like be funny. But it was like almost her like no remorse that made it feel a little like more hurtful, I guess you could say. Yeah.
People are always trying to test us, aren't they?
Oh yes.
We get a lot of that, you know, and it's like we get that so often, and it's not right.
No.
You know, you need to treat me equally. Don't test me. And truth be told, I'm going to test you right back and you will fail.
Exactly.
Because you're messing with the wrong Negro. Wow, I still can't get over the sun downtown. So how many miles are we from these places you're talking about right now?
Well, Pinckney apparently itself used to be one, so we're here right now. And then Howell is like 15 minutes away. It's not far at all.
So you guys knowing this, and I asked you this question the other night, you knowing this, knowing that you live here, I don't want to say willingly because, I mean, you're over 18, but you know what I mean? I know you're going to launch here pretty soon, but like, are you dying to get out of here?
In a sense, yes. Yes, definitely. Like, I enjoy the comfort of being home and being with my mom and my siblings and that kind of thing. But would I specifically choose to be doing that in Pinckney? No. Like, if we moved somewhere else, I'd be happy to stay home and, like, hang out for a couple more years until I move out. But being here does make me want to move out a lot more, definitely.
Talk about this blended family that you have. I want you to list, you don't have to list names if you don't want to, you can, but I want to kind of give people an idea as to how many people are here and what it's like, again, living as a blended family.
Okay, so there's Brittany. She's the oldest. She just recently moved down to Florida, but she's the same age as me, just a couple months older. And then there's me, and then there's Zach, and he just turned 20 this month. There is Maddie, and she's turning 18 in February. There's Breyanna, and she's turning 17 in October. And then there's Tori, and she's turning 16 in September. Yeah, next month. And then there's also, obviously, my mom and our stepdad.
It's a gaggle.
Yeah.
That's a team.
Yeah. Sometimes our kitchen, you know that scene in Home Alone where they all get the pizza brought in? That's exactly what it feels like going for dinner.
Yes. Coming underneath and stealing out of each other's hands.
Yes, that's exactly what it feels like.
And you wouldn't, it's your experience. You wouldn't trade it for the world.
Yeah, it's nice. I love being, like, growing up, like, as a single child. Like, at first when Boofy was born, I was kind of, like, jealous that she got all the attention. But it's nice to have, like, other voices, other personalities, like a bunch of different people in the house all the time. It's nice.
I hope that they don't hear this because I know people are lurking around. Let's hand it over to her real quick.
Yeah,
but I want you both to answer this.
Yeah. Okay.
Do you like all your siblings? You don't have to answer that.
Yes. For the camera,
good.
yes.
Okay. That's
For the camera, yes.
I'm going to ask you a very serious question, and if you're not comfortable with this, don't answer it. Okay. Have you had any have you had to work out some racial issues within the house, within your house?
I wouldn't necessarily call it like race issues, but maybe just blind ignorance.
You had a lot of teaching moments.
Yes.
Yeah, I saw one the other night. We'll talk about it off cam, but we were out there talking, and Sweetheart spoke up, and you guys were like, "Oh,
yeah,
you know?
Yeah."
And I get it because that it is so important for us not to respond. It's important for us to respond the right way.
Yes.
Which is take a moment, come from love, and try to look at it as a teaching experience. So we can move on from that. I just wanted to kind of, unless you want to stretch on that a little bit.
Yeah,
You could talk about Zach's hat.
Yeah, my stepbrother Zach had a Confederate flag hat at one point. I don't really think he knew what it meant.
No, he had no idea.
Yeah.
He had no idea what it meant.
A lot of people didn't.
Yeah, his friends have, like, I don't think he's necessarily friends with everybody that he was friends with in high school, but some of the people he'd hang around had, like, the, like, Southern pride, like, that kind of mentality. Yeah, yeah. So he just, like, kind of wore it to fit in. I'm not sure if he even bought it himself or if it was a friend's, but at one point I took that hat, I stepped on and I spit on it.
And he allowed you to.
Yeah.
And he had your back, it sounds like, right? I mean, you stretch on that. What happened within that situation?
We, like, explained it to him, and, like, he didn't fully understand, but now that he's, like, an adult, he knows why it's offensive, and he knows better than to ever bring something like that into his house.
Yeah, and he understands not what it stands for.
Yes, exactly.
Gotcha.
Yeah, definitely. I do like, I talk to Maddie a lot since we're so close in age and stuff. We're good friends, good siblings. But, like, my entire life, you know, I've never heard her say anything, like, anything offensive, nothing like that, nothing along the lines of that. Heart. Yeah.
Well, and she also thinks before she speaks.
Yes.
A lot of people don't. A lot of people don't know how to do that. It's really easy.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Very.
But God bless them, because again, a lot of people are just ignorant. A lot of people they're not. Their intentions aren't bad, right?
Yeah.
They just don't know.
Yeah, they just don't know any better.
But like, I feel like growing up with me, you know, like us being best friends and me being black, probably like made her realize like how different it is. Like being like next to me and seeing it, like almost firsthand, like secondhand, I guess.
Yeah.
Seeing the racism that I got and being like right by my side during it all. So.
And again, these are nuances of race and what kind of are stories that people, or even me, for instance, would never consider or think about. My sister and I have different fathers, and she's white. She identifies as white, but we're 6 years apart, so we wouldn't be able to have stories like that.
Yeah.
I really wish Maddie wasn't incredibly shy.
Yeah.
Because it'd be interesting to hear her kind of talk about, you know, just like how mind-blowing it is. It's so telling about human behavior.
Yeah.
Right?
But like to this day, I still like, I'll tell her different things about like racism and like educate her basically at the same time of just like talking to her. So
let me ask you this. So obviously we're living in very weird times, right? You don't need to be older to know that. You don't need to look down and reflect to be able to understand that. Are you hopeful? Do you think that like things are going to kind of get normal-ish, or are you afraid that this is the new norm?
I definitely hope so. I have hopes that maybe this will help people realize, but at the same time seeing like the backlash, the like turnaround of other people who have so much negative things to say, like that kind of makes me lose hope at the same time, because like you see this stuff and you hear people like all lives matter, like it's hard to stay hopeful, but you gotta at the same time. You can't just lose hope for a change.
Before you hand that over to her, as far as when you see these instances where people talk about all lives matter, are you noticing also that sometimes there's becomes a dialogue and people learn from that, or no?
I don't know, honestly.
That's fair. That's fair.
Yeah.
I feel like I've had some people reach out to me who were confused about all lives matter, and I hope that I was able to change a couple of minds by trying to just explain, right?
Yeah.
Because I think it's, again, human nature for people to want to just jump on the defense. Go ahead. Same question.
I personally, like she said, I'm somewhat hopeful with how many people are supporting like the movement and trying to like educate people, but at the same time I see so much backlash even from people that I'm friends with on Facebook, like that will just like try to criminalize like the whole movement and try to like just undermine everything about it, like try and like I don't know what I'm trying to say, like
take your time.
Excuse it.
yes excuse the actions of like the police and try to like, I guess, demonize is what I mean, demonize the protesters, even the peaceful ones, like all that kind of stuff. But yeah, it's kind of like 50-50, like you have hope, but at the same time you see so much people on the other side of it like just trying to like quiet it down, shut it up, that kind of thing. It's just hard to continue to be hopeful knowing that there's people that disagree that the simple statement that your life matters, like they just disagree with that and try to include themselves in it when they're not being victimized.
And victimize is a very specific word, and I'm glad you used that word, because a lot of times that's what happens. So how are you two going to do your part, right? You guys are the youth. I mean, you guys are young, and you've got so much time ahead of you, and we have to kind of all collectively figure out how we can help make change. What are your plans?
Personally,
Boofy is right. Boofy's like, give me that money.
Personally, I try my best to like, it's really simple. It's not doing much, but I try and post as many informational posts that I see on Instagram onto my story so people see it. I know people will like just scroll through those kind of things, but I just hope people will stop and like read what I'm posting. And I just want to like try and educate people. I work at a preschool, so like I'm with the little kids, And I've been asked before, like, why are you brown? And so I tell them, because obviously their parents didn't teach them about race, but I tell them I was just born different. My daddy looks different than yours. Like, this is just the way I am, and it's normal. Like, we both have the same skin. I'm just darker. Like, that kind of thing. Like, you got to try and teach it to kids early on so that way they understand that we're the same, just we're different colors. Like,
now I got to take a left turn on that before you answer that real quick, because that lends to the idea, and we all know this already, that people are still teaching their kids how to be prejudiced or racist.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Do you think it's that, or do you think that in these instances and cases, the parents are just lazy and not telling them either way?
I think it could go both ways, because there's a parent from the preschool, and she has proven herself to be a little prejudiced, so I unfriended her on Facebook. But her son loved me. I was his favorite teacher at the preschool, so like, and he never asked me questions about my race at all. So I feel like either she explained it to him, he just didn't question it, but I don't think she's teaching her own prejudices on him if I was like the first person he'd leap to, that kind of thing.
Got it. Okay. So again, that's another spin on a hopeful story.
Yeah.
It's got a nice a nice ending. All right. Hand it on over.
Yep.
So, personally, I have been like, again, like spreading awareness, like Patty has on. Let's say tilt it a little.
Yeah,
bit
just
more.
bring it closer to your mouth. There you go.
Spreading awareness and stuff, and then I went to a protest here in Pinckney, and that was very interesting.
How many people are in this town? Do you know?
There's quite a few. I mean, the high school has like 1,000 kids in it.
Okay, all right. Just to
So,
give people an idea. So
yeah,
how many
it's-
people were at this protest?
I'd say like maybe in like counting every single person that showed up, like despite leaving, maybe like 60 or 50. There was quite a few.
So that's not Chicago, but that's a
Yeah.
good turnout
It
for
was
Pinckney.
it was pretty crazy. There were only 3 black people, including me, which was crazy. Like, this was all just white people. Like,
Were you scared going there? Were you nervous?
yes, because I did not know what was gonna happen.
On a scale of 1 to 10, how nervous were you?
Probably like a 6.
Uh-huh.
Because, I mean, what do you expect? It's such a racist town. I was expecting to get like something thrown at me. I was expecting to get like shot, sitting right there. But there was a few people who did show up just to cause problems, like stand around. But the most like the backlash and like hatred was from people driving by, which was probably like 50. It was like a 50-50 ratio of like the people in support and the people driving by, flipping us off, screaming things.
We would hope for a 98.2%, right?
Yeah, it was
50-50. That's a lot.
maybe even like a 60-50.
Where's
it
the
was
love, yo?
crazy.
Where's
It
the
was
love?
crazy.
You know what else was crazy is they told me this story the other night, and you were like, oh, and there was homeboy, like you knew his name.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, that's how small the town is. It's like, but that's the work you're doing, and that's a beautiful example, because that does sound scary.
Yeah.
You know?
It was. It
Being one of
definitely
3
was.
black folks in a group of 60 protesting that black lives do matter in a town that had sundown town rules, laws. Unbelievable. All right, go on. I want to know. Keep going, because I want to know more. Protest is good, but I want to hear. I want to hear you're going to do your part.
Yeah, and like educating people, educating friends, educating anyone I can. You know, I've had people like, I've personally DM'd like friends. Like, I'll call out people that I'm friends with. I don't care about the situation. If it affects our friendship, like, they need to know, like, no, you can't say this. No, you can't do this. Like, I've had quite a few friends that have said the N-word in the past, like, used to use it. One was super duper old. We were like just kids. We were 12 years old. And then I had someone more recently, like 2019, use it twice. And I mean, she never said anything, like an apology. I remember she said it to my face once. And like
did she say nigga or nigger?
A.
Got it. Okay.
And I like just stared at her in shock. Like, why would you say that to my face?
Testing.
She was
they're
like,
testing us.
she, you know, like, of course she means well, you know, she definitely wouldn't use it present time. And she was like, yeah, you know, I grew up in like a more predominantly black area. And I was like, but that doesn't give you the right to say it. Like, no matter what your situation is,
Girl bye.
you have you have no place to say it.
No.
But I know she means well. I continue to educate her to this day. But
See, and it's interesting. Again, I'm glad that you spelled that out, because apparently she had a little bit of entitlement. She's like, I was raised around black folks, and you know, so I can do this. On here, I actually have wiggers, which I hate that term, but I have that as a question. Do you Go ahead.
God.
Hand the mic over, please.
Yep.
That eye roll said it all. Go ahead. Jump right in.
I was gonna say, yeah, there was a lot of that for me in high school. Like a lot of the jockey type boys, like they'd go around blasting rap music like on their phones, on like Bluetooth speakers, and then turn around and say the N-word, like call somebody the N-word. Like there's like exact documentation of that, like I vividly remember. And like just hate black people, like when the protests were going on back in like 2015 14, I can't remember what year specifically, they were the first ones to be like, oh, this is stupid, like why do you care, the police are right, they're always right, that kind of thing. But they'll turn around and go listen to like some Drake and like go to a
And know it
Kanye
word
West
for
concert.
word.
Yep,
Right.
yep,
Right.
yep, exactly.
So what is that, a double standard? I mean, how do you describe that? The
I don't
the
even
hypocrisy, the audacity. Like, how do you even...
Yeah, you take our culture, but you hate us at the same time. It's
Right.
like,
Within seconds.
yeah, yep,
And you have no remorse while doing it.
Exactly.
There's still no underlying compassion or care. Right? What's missing? Why aren't people compassionate? What's missing? Is it home?
That's what I feel like sometimes. Maybe home, or just like the influence of their parents. Yeah, pretty much just home life. That's all I could tie it down to, or trying to be cool, like fit in with their friends. But yeah, it just blowed my mind seeing that all the time.
And again, there's, from butt implants to, lip injections to, I mean, there's zillion examples as to how our culture is definitely favored when it's convenient.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
Right? So we have much more to talk about, and I've got a lot of stuff that I'm going to continue to ask you. But you guys had time to think about this. I know you took some notes. I want you to take some time to talk about some things that you just want to talk about, right?
Okay. Well, I wanted to talk about my grandma. She, in the 60s, I believe, she lived down in Birmingham, Alabama.
This is your dad's mom?
Yes, my
Got it.
dad's mom.
Okay.
Yep. And she told us about how she was almost going to march during Bloody Sunday on Selma, and her parents didn't let her go. But she talked to us about how she went to a predominantly black high school, and the civil rights leaders, like, who were leading the protests down in Birmingham, it could have even been John Lewis for all I know, but they came into their school and told them, like, hey, we need your voices in this, we need your help. And her principal said, I'm not going to stop anybody who wants to go Ahead, leave, go to the protests.
Wow.
Yeah, and that was the first time, I think.
That's
this was
huge.
This was as of recent that she told us about this. She had never told us about her childhood, and it was just like crazy to hear all this, because like we had no idea that she was so involved in civil rights. We didn't know what her life was like growing up, and she was like, I realized that we never talked to you guys about race or anything like that. And my dad had said that he didn't want to like talk to us about it because he figured that we were smart enough that we'd learn eventually, which is a good point.
And a lot of men operate that way.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And he also said he didn't want us to become little militant Black Panthers at like the age of 5. So like,
oh, how cute. I just had the cutest visual.
just a little.
Right? Little pics in your hair. Go ahead.
But yeah, and she told us about how her sister, she was gonna go to a protest, and they said like, be prepared to go to jail tonight, like you might go to jail. So she came home and she was packing her bag, like underwear, like clothes, like new clothes for the next day. Her mom comes in, she's like, what are you doing? And she was like, I'm going to jail. And she's like, no, you're not. And my grandma's father, he came in, he was like, she's gonna be the future, like this is the kind of energy we need. And she was like, she's not gonna be the future tonight. Like, didn't let her go. I thought it was funny. It was a funny
But he
story.
was right.
Yeah.
And she was focused and made that decision at almost a toddler.
Yeah.
Where is she now?
My grandma or my grandma's sister?
The woman, your grandmother, the woman from 1960 Birmingham.
My grandma, she lives out in Ann Arbor.
Gotcha.
She lives there. My dad lives with her, and occasionally my dad's brother, her other son, he's there too sometimes.
We should have hit the road and chatted
We
her up.
could have. Yeah, you
Yeah.
could have got her talking.
That's next time.
Yeah.
That's next time. So, I'm sure, is that the only story she shared with you? She's had to share some others? Because that had, again, a positive spin, a hope towards the end. Was it always hopeful with her?
There was one negative. It wasn't necessarily something that happened to her, but it was that bombing of that church. Yeah, with the little girls that got killed. But she said that a close, like, neighborhood friend of hers, their window panes got blown out from, like, blocks away. Like, that's how strong, like, the bomb was.
From the blast.
Yeah.
She wants a sip.
What were you going to say? I might have been about to say it.
Oh, you.
Because you finish each other's sentences. Take your
Yeah.
time.
I was just going to say, there was also, she told me about how, like, some of her friends from school would get run out of town. Like, white people would show up at their houses just standing out there, like, to intimidate them and scare them away, like, with fire, like, almost KKK type, but not necessarily, like, the group, not the robes, but they'd stand outside and intimidate them, and they'd just leave town. They'd get up and move. And then kids in school would be like, oh, well, where did so-and-so go? And they'd be like, yeah, the white people ran them out. Simple as that.
And they never looked back.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
That just kind of reminded me of this specific story. I saw it on Twitter. It was a thread about these Girl Scouts in Detroit back in, I think, either like the 90s or 80s. I think it was the 90s, though, maybe. But, of course, Detroit, you know, really diverse area. They said that they would go camping in Howell, and they knew nothing of the KKK being in Howell at that point. And the girl said that, like, her friend was on the phone with her mom. She was talking to her and had mentioned, like, oh, you know, we used to stand at the windows and doors and stuff, all take turns. She was like, oh, the girl who was writing the tweet said something about how, like, oh, were you trying to scare off bears? Like, the bears wouldn't open the door. And the mom was like, no, the Klan. She said that all the moms would take turns at every single window and the doors, just watching them, because the KKK would just stand outside the cabin and just sit. They never did anything, of course, but
For Girl Scouts.
yes.
Young girls. And I'm assuming that this troop it wasn't all black. It was just a
It was-
colorful group.
It might have been predominantly black.
Yeah.
Detroit's a pretty predominantly black area.
Yeah.
And this was in the 90s.
Yes,
Okay.
sometime in like the 90s or 80s.
Yeah.
That I saw that story and I was just shocked. That was like kind of when I found out about the KKK, which also reminds me of another story. But
Sure.
If
I have what, the time?
No, if you were gonna like ask another question.
No, yeah.
There was this girl. This happened in April. I have pictures and everything. There was this girl. I will not name drop her. Probably, I might.
Drop the
but
first name. Drop the first name.
I'm gonna get like kicked out of the school. Her name.
Don't get yourself into trouble.
Yeah, I won't name her, especially because.
What she said.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
what she said. No, I would definitely not name
We'll
her.
call her Jan.
Okay.
What if
Jan.
that was her name?
No. Her name. Okay, so Jan, this girl, she is a grade beneath me, and she has like a semi-popular TikTok account. And back in April, she had a whole Twitter cancellation because there was her lip syncing audio of some old racist song or something. Said whoop my butt and, you know, N-word. And everyone was so mad. She had like a Trump flag in the back, you know, of course.
What?
A lot of kids here have Confederate flags and Trump flags hanging up everywhere. But so Jan was getting in trouble. A lot of people were mad at her. You know, Twitter cancellation is something crazy. You know, we have a bunch of random people trying to jump you. And she had that. It wasn't like a super big one, but it was at the time that some other girls' TikTok got exposed of her and her boyfriend, you know, doing like racist stereotypes. And so it was around that time, and it didn't get as very popular, but it was definitely something that got big. And people were like DMing the school, emailing the school, replying to the school's tweets and posts and everything about the fact that she did that. And I have screenshots, I can look at them really quick, of things she said while fighting with someone
Yeah, take your time finding
about the situation. She ended up just saying the N-word, ER, at one point, just the word, you know, talking to this girl. And
just nigger for nothing.
yeah.
Okay.
No, this girl was like fighting with her, you know, like, you can't say that, you can't do that. And she ended up saying, I have a freedom of speech. If you don't know, I can lip sing and yell at the top of my lungs. I can call anyone and get out of my DMs, basically. She also took a picture with a boy who was holding a KKK flag and threatened someone with, my dad knows people in the KKK. So I will definitely not name drop her because of that specific situation.
Smart.
Here's a picture of her.
Wow.
Yeah.
And she's one of those girls that tans themselves super dark to the point where they're basically black.
Yeah.
Hashtag Trump. She looks, I mean, it's hard to tell from a picture, but she looks like she's got some wits about her. Not in that picture. So, okay, all right, hold on. And I know you can't answer this because you're not her, but like, do you think that she is that way because she's found a group of people that have accepted her and now she's found a voice and people are giving her attention? Or do you really think that she feels this way?
She's very popular in school, but I also feel like she might just feel that way. I really do just think it's some deep-rooted racism, especially with the fact that she threatened someone with the KKK. Definitely is a little bit more.
That's
but
a lot.
The school...
And those boots she was wearing were a lot.
Yeah. So the school, I don't know if I can find, like, their thing about it, but they did...
So adults got involved?
Yes, and nobody knows what really happened. They didn't even say her name in what happened. They were just like, oh, this student, like, I think it just said, like, we're making her apologize. And that's all she did. All she did was, like, take down the video or something. Like, and make, I think that's all they made her do was take down the video and apologize, from what I know.
On the platform or, like, what? To the
There's
school?
a Facebook apology, and I can read it to you.
Yeah,
It
let's
says,
hear it.
I'm going to publicly apologize for the TikTok I posted. I am not racist. I am sorry. Half the stuff the people are saying are fake. The text messages are not real. When stuff blows out of proportion, like, there's no stopping anyone. It kind of doesn't make sense. But anyone can say whatever they want, whatever they please, and lie as much as they want to make me look horrible. I would appreciate if people would stop making fake profiles in text and stop threatening my family. I know what I did was wrong. So basically denying the thing and then apologizing at the end for doing the said thing.
That was the most bananas apology I've ever heard.
Yeah, it's like
I didn't do this, but I did this.
Right. So basically, what you've heard is fake, and then if it wasn't fake, somebody else did it and made an account and spoke for me.
Yeah.
But I'm still sorry.
Yeah. I don't really know the situation.
Pictures say 1,000 words. You can't delete that. Go ahead.
Yeah, and it was just shocking, you know? Like, my cousin, who used to go to this school, they moved to Ohio back in, like, 8th grade. She texted me about it. I had no clue that it was even happening. She was like, Jan is getting, like, called out on Twitter, and I was like, oh my God. And it was, like, shocking, because...
So no black girls coming out the woodwork to whip her ass. That's not where we live.
If we were in school, she would have done. I probably would have done something, but I also think she might be like kind of as tall as me. I think about that first, you know. I definitely.
You could have taken her. I saw the picture.
I definitely like think about that. You know.
You shouldn't scrap. I mean, that's not. And I'm sorry, because truth be told, I apologize. Everybody can be a bit sensitive. I'm not promoting that teenagers go out and fist fight.
Yeah.
I'm not. But
it wasn't the plan, but like if I had a class with her, I might have confronted her. But of course, I'm not.
Cut her hair off.
Yeah, just shave her head in class.
That's one way.
But I don't think I'd actually do anything because I don't want a problem. I know that would have gone so wrong because of the situation, you know. Especially again the KKK thing. I don't want to get lynched in my own house or something.
Yeah.
Because I know my stepsister Tori, you're younger, of course, same grade as her. She used to be friends with her in like middle school, and it's kind of shocking. I mean, I'm glad they aren't friends now, but the whole situation was insane to see.
Yeah.
I had her in like one class in like 10th grade, and this of course happened in April, and she was just like annoying. She was so rude to the teachers, you know. Everyone kind of knew that she's
a
bad
mean
kid.
girl.
Yeah. And yeah, I don't.
That's what I'm picturing. I'm picturing a mean girl. Okay, we are going to move off of race for a bit, all right? And I want to talk a bit about what's going on this year with COVID and what's that like for a teenager? Well, you're 21, but what is it like for you guys and trying to deal with this and still keep your sanity?
Do you want to go? Go ahead.
Okay. So
I want you both to go.
Yeah. For me, it was definitely weird, but at the same time, I kind of stopped going to school because they like swapped my schedule, so I only went for 2 hours a day. So it wasn't that different not being like anywhere every single day. Like it was hard to like do anything. I mean, I got so like mentally drained because I'm just sitting in the house every single day. But I've gotten used to it at this point because despite like regulations kind of being lifted, I still don't really go anywhere. I still treat it like we're in lockdown because you should. I mean, Corona's still there. Corona's still around. It's not something to just like take off my mask. It's over because people said it was over.
You think this is going to be the new normal? What's your gut tell you?
If political things don't change this November, it probably will be. It's probably going to be masks for like a year, another whole year.
That's realistic, yeah.
So, unless there's a vaccine that comes before that, but it's kind of hard to tell. But it was definitely hard for like the beginning of lockdown, where like we straight up didn't leave at all, because I have my mom didn't want me leaving, so I didn't go anywhere, of course.
Yeah.
And more now, she's been a little bit less harsh about it.
Thank God for your big blended family now, because you actually have people and things to do, and it's important.
Yeah.
You go ahead, it's your turn.
Okay. So for me, when COVID started, I was still working at my preschool job. I was working at Target, and I was working at American Eagle.
Oh, she half Jamaican.
Yeah.
Quarter Jamaican.
Yeah. So when I was working at the preschool, things got shut down, obviously, in March. Like, they just said, no, we're done. And then Target, I stayed for another good month, but as things got, like, more crazy, I decided to take a leave, which I have still been on that leave since April. And then American Eagle, they furloughed me, and they said, like, you know, call back when you want to come, like, work here again. And I was only working there one day a month to help them change out their, like, sets, put out the new clothes, that kind of thing. So I just haven't bothered calling them back yet. But yeah, so I haven't been to work since April. I've just been at home, and at first I wasn't like taking any college classes or anything like that, but since in quarantine, I've been doing a lot of cooking and a lot of baking. So I think I'm going to go to culinary school. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Yeah, I think once like winter hits, I think I'm going to go for my business degree first, and then I'm going to move on to culinary, baking and pastry, that kind of thing.
Get out of town.
Yeah.
So what I'm hearing is that this is the silver lining of COVID for you.
Yes,
It's
yes,
kind of
exactly.
nudged you into making some
One
real
little
big
blessing.
decisions.
Yes.
It's a big deal.
Yeah.
My background's in food and beverage. This is a beautiful, beautiful business and career that you'll be moving into. Wonderful. You said business management was your...
Yeah, that's going to be like my first move there.
Yeah. Smart. Okay.
But yeah.
Wow. All right. And again, you're really good about spinning things into positivity. What do you think about these conspiracies with COVID? Like, have you heard anything like that? Because a lot of people don't think that it's real still.
Yeah.
Right?
I don't know what it's going to take for people to realize it's real. I'm assuming, like, I don't wish it upon anybody, but their family members, like, passing away or getting severely sick. Like, I think that's all it's going to take for people to realize, like, how serious this actually is.
Right.
Because there's so many people that even from a lot of people like assume it's like older people and also like college age students, but it's just surprising to me how many people like don't believe in like wearing masks and like don't believe that this is actually happening and that they could just go out and continue to do whatever they want. Like, it's a surprising amount of young people that agree with that mentality, and it blows my mind.
Yeah. It's alarming how stupid people can choose. It's a choice, and they choose to be. Hand that back to her for 1 second. So a little while ago, I asked you kind of about some of the notes that you composed. You talked about your grandmother, but I didn't ask you the same question. So were you on the same page with her as far as those notes?
Yeah.
So that's kind of both of you wanted to touch on that. All right.
Yeah.
All right. So usually we shoot for about an hour. We're almost out of time. So I want to know, is there anything else that you kind of want to contribute to the conversation? Anything else you want to add before we move into kind of a solution space, we'll call it?
I think I have a little.
You go.
It's back to like race again.
Yeah, please.
But I remember specifically in high school, we would read like To Kill a Mockingbird and Of Mice and Men, like those old books that discuss race and use the N-word with the hard R.
Right.
And I'm sitting there in a class full of white kids, white teacher, and my English teacher at the time, I believe I was a sophomore when we were reading To Kill a Mockingbird, I'm pretty sure. And he went through the process of explaining to these white kids the difference between the hard R and the A word, like out loud, just out front, just like, yeah, if you're calling somebody the one with the A, that's like your friend, that's your buddy. And he was like, it's okay for you guys to say it. And I'm just sitting there like, oh my God. And then after that class, I remember this white boy, he came up to me. He was like, did that make you uncomfortable? And I was like, yes.
Yeah.
Like, very uncomfortable, yes.
Do you think that teacher was doing that for you?
I don't know.
Like,
he didn't look at me once, as far as I can remember. I think he was just doing it to try and tell the kids, like, I don't know, the difference between the two, like but he didn't have to say it. He didn't have to say it. He could have he could have just kept it like
First of all,
N-word with the hard R.
He didn't have to say it. Second of all, it's coming out of the wrong mouth. And
Exactly.
third of all, he's wrong.
Exactly. Yeah.
Whatever, he's wrong because he's not allowed. Well, anyway.
Yeah. But we'd read those books and we'd do like popcorn where everybody like takes a turn reading like a couple pages out of the book. And I would skip forward. I would find where it would say the N-word with the hard R, and I'd get up and go to the bathroom because I did not want to hear these white kids saying it.
Wow.
Yeah, every single time. And I don't know if teachers ever caught on or if they were just like, it's okay, she can go. Like, I understand, that kind of thing. But yeah, I would get up and every single time I would skip like 5 pages forward, figure out where it's going to be. Once we're getting close to that page, I'd get up, I'd be in the bathroom a good like 15 minutes knowing that it's already passed and then go back.
Would you still behave that way today if that was the case?
No. I feel like being surrounded by a lot of white kids is really intimidating, and I never wanted to speak up and say like, hey, that makes me uncomfortable. Like, I never really had the confidence, and I regret it so much now because like I wish I could go back to younger me and be like, stand up for yourself, like tell them no, they can't say that, no, they can't touch your hair, no, they can't make jokes like that kind of thing. But it was just trying so hard to fit in, especially being at a new school. Like if I was through that school system for a long time, I'd feel more confident, I'm sure. But being new to the high school was really like kind of like it lowered like my self-esteem, my confidence, that kind of thing. So I just didn't have like a strong voice to be able to stand up for myself.
And I think that's normal.
Yeah.
I really
Definitely.
do. Yeah. Despite your personality, even if you're the
Right.
most, gregarious person or the most shy person, I think that's, Go ahead.
Yeah, I basically had the same experiences. The teachers are like relentless. They don't care. They don't care that they're saying the N-word. And I did the same exact thing that she did. I didn't even know she did it. Freshman year is when we read it, and I got up and left.
You didn't know that she did the same thing?
I had no clue that she went to the bathroom. That was my excuse too. I used to look through the like pages, like, oh, are they gonna say it this time? Like, prepare myself to hear it yet again from these white kids' mouths. I know my teacher did not let the kids read the book like themselves. It was just her. And of course, like, she was my favorite teacher. I loved her so much, but she said it. Unfortunately. And and she was like active, in the civil rights movement. Like, she was a kid at that time, and like her parents fought, she fought as a child, but for her to say it, it's just like ignorance at that point. 'Cause, like, she obviously means well. She knows what she stands for and stuff, but she still said it.
Ignorance, and again, a little bit of entitlement. I think that a lot of white folks, when they know this word, they hear this word, they're like, this isn't fair. It's a word that we can't use. And if they at any point think that they are in the crew or the club, they're gonna run with it.
Like, if you are like an activist and stuff, that doesn't give you the right to say the N-word.
No.
That means nothing. I saw someone the other day post about that type of thing, like, oh, I can say it because I'm an activist. It doesn't mean I'm racist. I was like,
No.
Yeah, I don't get why like people like that will go and say the N-word, like they don't have that same mentality for like the F slur or like the R slur. Like they're like, oh, don't say that, that's not right, like you're not supposed to say that, but then they'll turn around and use like the N-word and be like, well, why can't I say that? It's just like it's the same thing. Like,
there's I'm 42, soon to be 43 this week, but I've never seen this word hold so much power. And obviously it's controversial, it always will be, but I've never ever seen it be such a bone of contention for people, such a talking point, and have so much fucking energy wrapped into it. It's ridiculous.
It
like,
is.
despite if people are using it in a negative way or not, like, despite the teachers reading it and not meaning it that way, the word still means so much.
Yeah.
Like, no matter if you're repeating it, no matter if you're saying it in a song, anything, it's still the word.
Yeah.
No matter if
especially
you
hearing
give
that
it
of white
power.
people.
Yeah.
Do you guys use the word?
No.
I personally don't. Sometimes I'll like sing a song and like slip up a little bit. Like, personally, I just like not saying like I'm not allowed to say it, but just like I feel more comfortable.
I get
like
it.
just not.
Yeah. Like, I don't say it.
That's
Yeah.
good. I say it. A lot of my friends don't like that I say it, and I have my own reasons as to why. I think it's part of my vocabulary. I
Yeah.
think it's a way I can relate to people of my culture.
Exactly.
I think that a lot of things culturally, anyway, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I think a lot of that also has to do with the fact that we're not really around black people here.
Yeah.
So I feel like if I was like with a lot of other black girls or black boys, like I feel like I'd probably use it more often.
Right, or
but-
be a little more, feel at least a little more at ease too.
Right.
Yeah, and definitely, like, I don't use it specifically because I'm still, like, a minor. I'm still a little kid. I'm still a teenager.
Yeah.
And I, like, look at it as, like, a swear word, kind of, at the same
Yeah.
time, especially with, like, the power it still holds. Not, of course, like, the racist way as me saying it, but maybe when I'm older I might, but
Yeah.
at the time of me being 16, like, I really don't swear, no.
I still have trouble just with the idea that you're 16, but go ahead.
Yeah, I was just gonna say also like being around white kids and like using it, I feel like that would enable them to think that they can too. Like
Yes.
that's why I feel like I've
It's
refrained
true.
myself.
Yeah.
I'll tell you right now from experience, you're 100% right.
Yeah.
And I've had
Yeah,
to have those
definitely.
conversations with friends. It takes it all back to high school, I think, But yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
I like that because again, this is all ideas of how smart you are, and keeping things in mind. And I also like the example of how you both would read ahead to look for the N word in the book, which means that you all can read your asses off. Yeah. All right, I'm sad to have to wrap this up. We're at an hour. But before we say goodbye, we always want to kind of talk a bit about solutions. And are there solutions, if anything? And can you think of anything offhand that you could offer the listeners or viewers that, yeah.
Just keep yourself educated, keep up with the news, keep up, like, with the protests if you can. For the most part, just keep yourself educated, acknowledge, like, if you've done things in the past, acknowledge them, know that you were wrong in the past and continue to grow from who you used to be. It's okay to change your opinions from, like, your past self and stuff.
It's important
Yeah.
Exactly.
to change your opinions
Yeah.
from your past self and to grow and to evolve.
Yeah, definitely. Like, if you used to be, like, agree with Republicans and, like, against Black Lives Matter, it's okay to change your mind, no matter how old you are, no matter if it was yesterday. You can change it at any point in your life. You can, one day you can just wake up and be like, I realized that I was stupid and wrong yesterday.
Yeah.
And completely
And
run a
it's
different
okay.
path. Yeah,
And
it's
it's
perfectly
okay.
fine.
Yeah. And we encourage you to do that. None of the guests have ever mentioned that. And I love it because it's true. It's like it's one thing to educate yourself, but it's also encourage yourself to change your mind, right? Okay, you're up.
I was just gonna say, definitely teach your kids about race. Like, it's not like a touchy subject. It's okay to tell your kids like there's black people, there's people that are like Indian, there's Asian people. Like, it's important for them to
It doesn't
realize
have to be a
that,
black and white conversation.
yeah, exactly. Like, it's important to realize that there's like people that don't look like you, because what they see for the most part is what they see at home, and once they're exposed to kids that are different, it's been proven that kids will like neglect kids that are like look different. They'll hang out with kids that look like themselves.
Right.
Yeah, it's
Again,
important.
human nature.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
But it's important to teach them that there's a difference and that they'll notice it, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And it's important to call out your racist relatives.
Yes,
Yes.
Oh,
Call out
damn.
your racist granny. Call out your racist
Call out your
auntie.
racist friends.
Yes.
I love
Call
this.
out your racist friends.
Your parents, anyone.
And it doesn't necessarily
I
have
love
to be
this.
negative. It could be like the slight mess ups where you're just like, okay, well, this is wrong and this is what's right. Like, explain things to them. Like,
But it's
Brooke
so
said,
important
keep
that you
them
said that.
educated.
And I
Yeah.
love that. Again, a nice positive twist. It's like it
Yeah.
doesn't always have to be a hard conversation
Right.
or a dark or angry conversation.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be screaming and yelling or arguing. It's more of like, well, you feel this way, but this is how that makes black people feel. Like, that kind of thing. Like,
Spelled out very clearly.
Yeah.
You said, and I love this. I'm ecstatic right now. So let's get a little deeper in that. You've worked in preschools. You teach your kids about race. Give us tangible words. What does that conversation sound like? Give us a line or two.
I feel like just like going to your kid, like if they come to you with a question, like, why does he look different? Then you go up to him and say, well, their mommy and daddy don't look like your mommy and daddy. They have different colored skin. Their skin's just a different color, as simple as it is. They come from a different family than you, so they look different, a different culture. Obviously kids might not understand the word culture, but putting it into kids terms would just simply be their mommy and daddy is different than you, is different than us, I should say, as the parents.
And it's important that I ask that because, people think, oh, this all seems so easy, right? Oh, let me just talk to my kids about race. And then they sit down and go, okay, where do I go with that?
Yeah.
Right? So putting it in layman's, thank you. It's a good example as to how things want to be lined up. You want to add something?
Definitely, like, growing up in Ann Arbor, like, kids were never like racist, of course, and like seeing it in Pinckney, not being exposed to such diversity can like, I feel like that's like where that comes in, like being closed off to like other races, being friends with other races, being different looking different does not like make a difference.
Right.
And of course, kids in Ann Arbor grew up with kids looking completely different, and you became friends with whoever you want. But of course, Pinckney, kids were like, it almost felt like a like scared situation. Like kids wouldn't talk to me, kids didn't look at me. It was just
like an alien.
Yeah.
But you
teachers too were
I believe that.
a little weird.
Well, again, Howell, Brighton was it? I mean, look at where you live. This is interesting, and I think mainly what's most interesting. Sorry, I just yanked your mic. Is that you still have a positive attitude about everything that's going on, and I think that despite the fact that we talked about your age and how that all factors in, there is hope for both of you.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that's so important for people to hear.
Yeah.
Go on.
I remember this one time specifically in 4th grade, when I first moved here, I got a wood chip through my foot and it was bleeding, like all over, of course, because it went through the bottom of my foot because I stepped down at the playground, and my teacher just told me, that's why you don't wear Crocs. I didn't get to go to the office to get a Band-Aid. She made me go into the bathroom by myself. Maddie did help me. And wash out my foot, the cut in my foot from a wood chip, and just put paper towel in my shoe.
Why did you accept that?
Because I didn't think. I was just like, okay, I mean, I don't know what else to do.
And then later when you look back on it.
Yeah, looking back, I'm like, it's kind of weird. And of course, like, I'm not the best performing kid in school, but I definitely felt a different vibe from teachers, like, when it came to me. And I also had a black friend in my 6th grade class, who our teacher told us we could go to the bathroom at any time we want, to the whole class. She said that to us. And she went to the bathroom, you didn't have to ask her, you just went. My friend went to the bathroom, came back, and she got screamed at for it. Like, why would you go to the, like...
Oh, so that rule didn't apply to her.
I guess, and she used to get mad at me too, just random things.
I was going to ask you a question, but I think that was an example you were just going to give me. And my question was, how do we not always pull the race card? How do we know if somebody's just having a bad day and being a bitch, or if they're really coming for us because of our color, right?
Yeah, like,
and that's rhetorical. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Like, it was hard. It's still kind of hard for me to like pick up if teachers are really being like racist towards me, or if it just is because my performance in school, which either way like shouldn't be something you treat someone differently about. I don't go to school that often because I have insomnia, so it's hard for me to wake up in the morning, and I just like rarely did my work, and teachers were just so rude to me sometimes, just treated me differently, just bad attitudes with me, and I couldn't really tell if it was like a racist situation or not, and I still can't, because of course, teachers are mean when it comes to work. If you don't do your work, you're ignored basically. Yeah. And a lot of times, like being a kid still, I never got like help with my work. Like, I wasn't doing it, but the teachers wouldn't help support me or like try and even do something for me. But of course, I don't want to like I don't want to pull the race card as the first thing in my head, because I don't want to think of the teachers that way.
Right.
But it's kind of hard.
It's hard not to.
Yeah, it's hard not to, especially with the treatment towards the other kids in the classes.
And what you're witnessing.
Yeah, because some of these kids, were their favorites. And they did like kind of the same things as me. I remember 8th grade, I asked my friend if he could tie my shoe really quietly, because we were watching Obama's like last speech, and I was like, hey, can you tie my shoe for me really quick, because I was sitting like a weird way, so I couldn't do it myself. And the teacher screams at me and tells me to go back to my seat, yet half the kids in this room are talking. And I was just so confused. Like, what about me whispering to my friend was so bad? Yeah. When kids all around me were talking their mouth.
But pointing you out.
And that's happened to me a lot. I had a teacher, 8th grade, again, this was 8th grade too. A teacher sent me to the back of the classroom for talking. Back of the bus. Yeah, back of the bus. But I wasn't really talking that much. I was a little bit annoying in 8th grade, but I wasn't
really
doing
anything out of the ordinary.
Yeah, I was just kind of talking, making jokes with my friends, and I was the one to get sent to the back of the classroom. My 2 white friends next to me sat. It wasn't them, it was me. It was my fault that happened. So.
All right. Well, so before we say goodbye, I know that you guys mentioned that your next stop when you do move will be Ann Arbor. Is that true
Yes.
for both of you?
I think as close to Ann Arbor as possible.
Yeah, at least
Um,
somewhere diverse in Michigan.
Yeah, because Ann Arbor, the price of living is very expensive, but it's very nice.
Yes.
It's very nice. And
All right, we're
reminds me of
coming.
childhood.
It's dinner time. Dan's got some venison burgers on the grill, and it's time. All right, well, I'm going to check back in with the two of you at some point down the line. Either I'll come back out and visit you, we'll do this again, or we'll do
Yeah.
something kind of by Zoom. But I'm really glad that we had a chance to sit down. This made it all worthwhile, and so I'm super grateful.
It was
Okay.
fun.
Yeah,
That's
I
fun.
had a good time.
Yeah.
I was a little nervous, but
Yeah.
once you get going, it's so easy.
It's fun.
Yeah.
It's fun.
Yeah.
That's fun. All right. So to these beautiful sisters, a big thanks to them. And always a big thanks to you. Make sure to do your part. We love you. Love on each other. Love on me. And hey, we'll see you soon. Have a good one.